my sheikh said to me, don't come back to my class wearing that jalabia. And what he did is shattered my ego. It really hurt me. I actually was just floored. Well, I looked over and my brother from New York, who was African American, was in the same master's program. He had on a jalabia, and it was just killing me because I couldn't say to the sheikh, well, why is it okay for him, but it's not okay for me? Because I'm an American, and that's what we do. So after the class, I went to him and I said, Sheikh, I don't want to violate any rules of being a good student.
What is that jalabi? This dark?
It's the long white shirt that Arabs wear.
Jalabi means the jalebi.
Yes.
Yeah,
not jelly bean. No, I'm not. So anyway, he said, Abdurrahman, he said, did you embrace the culture or did you embrace Islam? I said, I embrace Islam. I said, but this jalabia reminds me of who I want to be. He said, oh, you want to be a man in a dress? I said, no. I don't want to be a man in a dress. But I said, I can hide because I look like a typical Christian. I look like a white American Christian. And I want people to know I'm Muslim. He said, then act like one. You don't need to wear a jalabia. And he said, and then you'll be a more effective da'i. And you know he was right. He gave me such a gift. And I tell converts today, don't adopt the dress of the people in your masjid. You're not adopting a culture. You are embracing Islam. Dress modestly. That's Islamic dress. But the appropriate, I could not question him in front. So then he said to me, he said, listen to Durok, man. He said, according to what scholar we listened to, as much as 70% of the transatlantic slave trade were already Muslims. So that is their natural dress. And it made 100%, it was just fine. But it was so hard, you know, I had to find a way that I could violate proper adabs of the student. You're not supposed to go to teach. Unless you can show a proof of the Quran. You can't violate that. But just manners-wise, you respect your sheikh. Back to the subject. Let me just reiterate, I'm not in any way, shape, fashion, or form denouncing good manners. Because good manners, the Prophet had the most impeccable manners. I'm just saying we have to be aware of what our intentions are. And what's in our heart. You know, if I want somebody to stand up when I come into the room, what does that say about me?
You're well married.
I think it says I have arrogance. If I expect that when I walk in that door, every single one of the students here stands up, and if you don't, I'm incensed. How dare you not stand up? I'm Imam Sa'd. And don't misunderstand me, I'm just kidding. I want to make it bigger. I don't want that. Okay. Somebody raise their hand?
I do, I'll ask after.
Okay. I'm the
Are you going to have good manners?
Yeah, make sure you stand up.
A work in progress.
The shaitan works actively with the Quran. Those who have been given good voices in reciting the Quran. Shaitan will approach him and tell him to show off with his recitation. And rather than to lead the salah for reward or to please Allah, he will start to show off with his recitation. Now, am I accusing anyone of doing this? I am not. Please do not misunderstand me. But how many people think this might happen occasionally?
I can imagine it was.
Yeah. Eunice, you've memorized the Holy Quran.
I did.
Most of it. Did the shaitan ever whisper to you, jazz it up a little bit, brother? You got such a beautiful voice anyway.
Happens. Yeah.
Happens, thank you. I love you.
Recitation mean?
Recitation is when you recite what you memorize of the Quran. There you go. Good question. Good question. A person must never show off with any of his prayers, dawah, or good deeds. Now, please listen to me carefully. If when I go to the masjid, I pray all the sunnah mu'akkadas, because I want everybody to see that I was the last one to leave and the first one to get there. But if I'm at home, I only pray the fard. Does everybody know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah, right.
Anybody not know what I'm talking about? The fard are the required number of units for each prayer. So for Fajr you pray 2, for Dhuhr you pray 4, Asr 4, Maghrib 3, Isha 4. Now there's some sunnahs, I call them warm-up exercises, that you can do before and after. So you can do 2 sunnahs before Fajr, you can do 2 before Dhuhr, and then you can do 2 or 4 afterwards. And then there's not any for Asr, then after Maghrib you can do 2, and then there's for Isha you can do 4, and then you can do 2, and then Witr. Okay, so those are called Sunnah Mu'akkada. Okay. So, but if I'm doing that only when people can see me, am I doing it for Allah?
No.
No, I'm worshiping me. Look at me. Everybody look at me. I'm the last one leaving the masjid. Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah. And I heard Sister Naran having an amazing conversation with someone who just did their Shahada this week. We can't judge someone's piety, folks. That's not our department. Dr. Nasser said it so beautifully last week. I can't judge anyone, but I tell you what, we all know what's going on inside ourselves, I believe. We know that if we're showing off, and we do, we need to get that in check.
Sometimes they say, stay early, come early, stay late. You ever heard that?
I have heard that. And if you're doing it for Allah, that's great. Because the first one at the masjid gets what?
The biggest reward.
The biggest reward. What is the hadith? The reward of the camel. The last one gets the reward of an egg.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have a camel that rewards any day than an egg. But I don't want it for me. I want it for the sake of Allah. And we have to know our intentions. That's what I'm trying to get here. I covered all of this, right? The hidden shirk. The hidden shirk can either be major or minor shirk depending on the area in which it was committed. Hidden shirk is one of the most dangerous forms of shirk as people cannot see that they are committing it. It is reported in Al-Jami' As-Saghir, hadith number 4934, that the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ash-Shirk al-Kafi is the Muslim nation, in the Muslim nation is more inconspicuous than the creeping of a black ant on a black stone in the blackness or darkness of the night." Now that's pretty inconspicuous. And this inconspicuous shirk is expiated by saying thrice the following sentences within a day and a night. Would you do this in Arabic for me, because your Arabic is so beautiful?
اللهم إني أعوذ بك أن أشرك بك وأنا أعلم وأستغفرك لما لا أعلم.
Jazakallah khairan. Oh Allah, I take refuge in you, lest I should commit shirk with you knowingly, and I seek your forgiveness for what I do unknowingly. This is that lowly spirit, folks. You need to be so aware of shirk that you're saying this 3 times a day. This is the sunnah. I mean, how many of us, don't answer this please, even think once a day about shirk? And yet it's the unforgivable sin. Because we need to be aware that we sin unknowingly. And we need to ask Allah to forgive us for those sins. Surah 2 and verse 222. Then do not set up rivals unto Allah in worship, while you know that He alone has the right to be worshipped. Yesterday I shared in the speech from Exodus, "Thou shalt have no other gods before thee, for I am a jealous God." This is very clear in the Bible. Chapter 14 and verse 30, "And they set up rivals to Allah to mislead men from His path. Say, enjoy your brief life, but certainly your destination is the hellfire." These verses say it all. I don't think I need to elaborate on these verses. In the hadith narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim, it is narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, Whoever dies claiming that Allah has a rival will enter hell. That is an authentic hadith. Ascribing to someone other than Allah something that belongs only to Allah, such as lordship, rububiyyah, divinity, uluhiyyah, and the divine names and attribute or asma wa sifat. This kind of shirk may sometimes be outward, such as the shirk of those who worship idols and graves, or the dead, or those who are absent. How many people in this room have seen this stuff? Okay. So you know that it happens, right? Yes, Dr. Sadi.
Imam Sykes in Pakistan, for example, it's very culturally common to name people like Satar. And, you know, names like that are names of Allah, and they don't put the word Abdul before it. Or, you know, some other disclaimer. So people call them with those names. Like if the person's name is Satar, everybody calls him Satar. Is that a shirk?
That, my understanding is that that's shirk. Can anybody add to that? Yes.
When my brother was born, my parents named him Rafe, and they were told by some people that it's shirk and he should be named Abdul Rafe. Except we lived in Saudi Arabia and we called cranes Rafe. And they said that there are some attributes that are only specific for Allah, and some attributes other humans can have as well. And Rafe is one of those.
Allah knows best. I don't have the best answer for that. My understanding is that the names that are given to Allah, best practice is not to give them to humans. So I can definitely say that. Safely, I can say before Allah, the best practice would be not to do that. But whether I can say whether it's absolutely all of them, I do not know.
Because it's very common there.
But what's the intention here? It's just naming somebody or thinking that that person is Satar. The intention is obviously not.
Right.
Well, I know, but still, you shouldn't muddy the waters, right?
Yes.
You should try to stay.
No, in
Right.
the end it comes to niyat, I guess, or your intention.
And you're correct, Dr. So everything is about niyah. But the thing is that if Allah says, I'm a jealous God, let me see if I can put it on a human level. God is Ar-Rahman, and Ar-Rahman is jealous. You come along and say, I'm Ar-Rahman. Do you think that might upset Allah?
Because I am not the act or I'm just named Ar-Rahman. That's all. Or Rahman, not Ar-Rahman.
But based on the verses I've given today, would you feel like that might be a conflict of interest?
It's like this. I'm your wife, okay? You go around calling other women, if there's a common word for a wife in a language, which I don't know. Yeah, let's say Habibi. And you go and start calling other women Habibi. Am I not going to be upset? I'll be like, what is he doing? He's calling other women Habibi. So it's
I can understand.
It's the kind of respect that only one person deserves and nobody else deserves that respect. And we should just stay on the cautious side rather than, you know, like just going to gray zone.
Yes, brother.
I'm having some difficulty with this concept of the jealous God. Could you please help me with that? I don't understand why or how God would be a jealous God.
The word jealousy is not a word that we can relate to. In other words, the kind of jealous that Allah is not a jealous that any human can understand.
Beyond our perception.
It's beyond our perception. Except that He has made it very clear that we should not refer to a created thing by His name. And so what we do know is that He does not like for us to refer to a created thing by His names or attributes. And that He does not like us to worship any other than Him.
Yes.
So that's the kind of, you know, Allahu Alam, Allah uses words. We know this is a translated word, but He uses a word that we can relate to, but it never means anything. It's far superior to anything we can describe with the English language.
So he's basically just saying that there are certain attributes that can only be divine, and not human. So that would be, because the word jealous connotes a negative emotion in humans, right?
Yes, it does.
So basically, a divine attribute is something that is superior, different, unique to the divinity.
Think of it as unlimited.
Right, and we are limited.
Right, exactly. Yes.
So polytheism is the worst possible thing you can do as a Muslim.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
I got actually a comment about that, of his question of what of jealousy. I think Noah, or well, I'm trying to think, like, you know, of the temple, about all those statues, but one
Yes.
that was destroyed. Abraham, sorry, got the mix up the, yeah, I'm sorry, but my sister told me this.
Okay.
There was this temple that was actually, people of the temple, when, let me get my thoughts together, sorry. When the priest came back to the temple and saw all the statues but one was destroyed, the priest actually asked him, why did you destroy most of the statues? They were like, no, they were like really hooked on the statues. And you know, they said, you know how we feel about the statues? Kind of, sort of. But I mean, like, and in Adam's, right? No, Abraham.
Abraham?
Yeah, Abraham, right. And he was kind of like saying, well, I don't know, like, ask this one, why did I actually destroy all of but one?
Yes.
And it's like, you know, for, he actually, the priest says, well, we are going to practically, put you on fire or something? Was that the sentence
Yes.
of his
Yes.
punishment? So therefore, for, Abraham, he actually said, go ahead. If that will be God's will, then that will be his will. So therefore, he prayed for God, if this is your will for me, then so be it. But God, he said that, like, no, you got more, I got more plans for you. So therefore, God has actually cooled down after Abraham was actually put on fire. God actually blew wind right on the fire and cooled off all the fire. Yeah. Jennifer.
Yes, Jennifer.
Oh, I was actually going to ask, I had heard that it's not a problem to name a child after God's attributes because you're not using the same name. You're not calling them Arahim.
And you're exactly correct.
And so that's not a problem.
You can say Abdurrahman, Abdurrahim, Abdullah. You can't say Ar-Rahman.
Right.
Ar-Rahim.
But you can say Rahim, you can say Mama, because these are just adjectives to describe.
Right, as long as it's not a name that Allah referred to. An asma or a sifat that Allah referred to himself as the Quran is exclusively to Allah. Is everybody clear on that?
I got conflict when I named Kareem. I had people tell me I should have named him Abdul Kareem. I was like, but his name is Kareem.
The best practice is that anytime you're naming a child, for those of you who have children, name them the servant of whatever Allah's attribute. That is best practice. We can know that that's the safe way. If you're in doubt about something, the best thing is to use the best practice. Then you're safe. Because God knows. Look at the warnings about polytheism. Look at the warnings of entering into associating yourself with a name that is one of Allah's names. I don't want to take that risk. Of course, it wouldn't be my fault if my parents named me that. It would be my parents that made that choice. So, you know, best practice. I think that these verses say sufficient or give us sufficient warnings about the gravity of shirk, that it should be a wake-up call for us to exercise best practice. Somebody tell me what time it is, because this clock is missing and I... Quarter till. Yes.
Since we're on names, I just wanted to wonder something. Is it okay for like every Muslim man, the first name to be Muhammad? Is that supposed to be? Or?
That's the name of a prophet, not the name of Allah.
No, I know. No, I'm not mixing that.
But it is also not recommended. Most scholars say this. And I'll give you a great story about this. The great boxer, Muhammad Ali, whenever his star was to be placed among all the other stars in Hollywood, California, he said, I will not have the name of my prophet on the ground. And they put his star on a wall. MashaAllah. So, best practice is, you will hear people say Muhammad or Mahmed or other forms of Muhammad. Best practice. Allahu Alam. If I don't absolutely have a verdict for you, I will never give it to you. I will tell you what I've been taught. Best practice is you don't just name him straight out Muhammad. But most of us don't know better. And for example, you know, look, when I became a Muslim, I had no idea what I was doing. And our second child, we went to name her and we thought we loved Kamil because it means perfect and complete. We had no idea that it was a boy's name. So we had to pedal backwards to get everything fixed before we took our child home. And then we were worried, of course, with me having a psychology background, I was thinking, oh my God, now she's going to think we wanted a boy and just wanted a girl. You know, and my sheikh was telling me, no, just call her Jamila. You know, I mean, it was like Jamila, Camila. You know, none of the names did we ever say right, and probably we don't even pronounce them right 28 years later. For example, Nasiha, it's got the sod in it. I don't say Nasiha well, but that's my oldest child's name. So I'm saying that sort of in a spirit of humility. Practice best practice, practice. Do the best you can. Allah knows your heart. He knows your intention. If you are in doubt, look at the verses that I've given you today. And refresh those verses in your heart. If that doesn't put the fear of God in you, on how you want to name your children, those who know. We didn't know. We were ignorant. Yes, sister.
I just feel that the niyat for people naming their sons Muhammad is that they want them to be an example of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. But to me, it seems like there are a lot of men called Muhammad and they're not near anywhere of his example.
Well, I can tell you there's no doubt about that. There's a lot of people named Muhammad.
So I just feel that they don't have to name, you know, I don't know.
Well, look, let's think about this. Abdur Rahman, the servant of the compassionate, or the servant of the merciful. If my name is Abdur Rahman, and you see me in the parking lot out there cursing somebody out, I'm clearly a liability to my name. Because I'm not living up to my name. And the whole idea is for us to live up to our name. So we want to give our children good names. And inshallah, teach them. This is why, you know, the hadith that says if you memorize the 99 names of Allah, then you can inherit paradise. Do you think it means simply that you can name them?
To be them, of them, like them.
Memorizing them means understanding the meaning of them. This is my understanding from authentic scholars. It doesn't just mean I can name them, because we know a lot of people can recite Holy Quran. Listen, I had Hafiz in prison when I was a chaplain in prison. Just want to make sure you don't think I was there. Some of the most beautiful recitation I've ever heard in my life was from a bank robber that had left bodies all over the United States of America. And you know what he told me? I did this for Allah. He had a mental disorder. Shirk may sometimes take the form of beliefs, such as the belief that there is someone else who creates, gives life and death, reigns or controls the affairs of the universe along with Allah. So for example, sometimes someone might say, the stars gave me such and such. This is an example of shirk. Everything comes from Allah.
Like astrology?
Yes, astrology is another example of that. Amulets. We'll pick this back up next week. But just to give you an idea, people wear amulets with little pieces of Quran inside of them, and they think that's going to save them. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ actually broke one off of someone in authentic ahadith. But people are still doing it today because of ignorance.
Used to pin one on a baby when he was born.
Yeah, they pin them on babies. They hang them from their... They think if you hang something from your visor that has a verse from the Quran, that's going to save you. Who's you're giving the credit to? Allah or that thing that somebody created and charged you 10 or 15 bucks for hanging from your visor? Our iman is in Allah. It is Allah that saves us. It is Allah that is our sustainer. Yes, brother?
Does it count as necklaces too when you have the name of Allah in it?
The name of Allah, let's talk about best practice. Is it haram? No. I want to make that clear. But now, if I go into the bathroom and I've got Allah on my neck, am I respecting Allah?
No.
So, best practice. You see, this is where I try to teach people. Is it best practice? Is it allowed? Yeah, I could go in there with Allah on my neck. But what am I doing to the name? How am I giving that respect to that name? So, the same way with going to sheikhs and believing that if this sheikh prays for me, a certain thing will happen. And I'll tell you, this is a true story. When I went to Hajj, I started looking at Hajj packages. And one package, you got to go to Morocco, and then you went here and there and there before you got to Medina and to Mecca and all of this. And you got to see the sheikh tickle the alligator, and he'd go to sleep. I'm not kidding. There's all kinds of mumbo-jumbo hogwash out there under the disguise of Islam, folks, and you need to know this stuff. Because if you want a Mabruk Hajj, and you start dabbling in shirk at the beginning of your Hajj, may Allah help you. But this is a true story. There were several programs like that. The sheikhs would perform miracles in front of you. That's what they said. Mu'ajizas are reserved only for whom?
Prophets.
Prophets. There are no more mu'ajizah. These were reserved only for prophets. Mu'ajizah is miracles. Now we have something. May Allah bring this word to me. It's not barakah. It's a word for
Karama.
karamat. Thank you. We have karamat. Thank you, brother. Just would not come. So, for example, I'll give you just sort of an idea. Let's say that I ask Allah, "Oh Allah, guide me. I want to buy a house." And I pull up into the driveway of this house, and there's a bird perched on this house that doesn't live in America. It's a bird that I only saw in South Africa, and it's just virtually impossible for that bird to be in America. And there's sitting that bird. Perhaps, did you hear the word I used, perhaps? That could be a keramat, a sign. Keramats, the scholars say we should not pray for them because we may not be able to handle them. They are first cousin to miracles. That's the way I like to describe it. They are special barakah, hasanat, blessings that Allah gives us. I personally believe that my being cured of cancer was karamat, because we were told I'm going to die. My wife has said he is going to die and there is nothing we can do for him. And I believe that it's karamat that I'm standing up here today on my feet, because I was given less than a 1% chance of recovery when I had my stroke. But so what? In other words, it's a gift from Allah. It doesn't mean anything about me. It's all about Allah. All the praise is due to Allah. And that's what we have to know. When we start thinking that we got something from Allah because we were special, that's when our ego gets in the way. And that's when we get lost spiritually. And that's when we end up leaving, getting lost. Somebody raise their hand. Forgive me. Yes, sister.
When something happens in your life, is it okay to say it's a miracle from Allah?
Well, it's not true to say it's a miracle. It is okay to say this is the blessing of Allah. That's great to say, because everything that comes to us is a blessing from Allah. My cancer was a blessing. It was a gift. My stroke was a gift. Alhamdulillah. It was an absolute gift from Allah for me to experience His power and majesty in another whole way. But I cannot claim a miracle, because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam clearly said that miracles are reserved for the prophets. So we can't, it's not best practice to use that word. The best practice is say, MashaAllah, Allah bless me with barakah. Best practice. And I think it's time, right? Is it 1 o'clock? Alhamdulillah. I want to say this. Did you have a question, brother?
Just a quick comment, because I heard 2 words that are really important. One is, we started off with the pillars controversy, right? There's a lot of controversy about the 5 pillars, and then you said the word gift. So the way I think of this is, because the definition of the word pillar is that it's a column that keeps something else up. And we have failed to understand that we have no house, we just focus on the pillar. Right now there has to be a greater good that comes out of those pillars. And these pillars are basically gifts from Allah, because if you don't understand Shirk, you follow Mr. King, Mr. Monarch, Mr. Prince, Mr. Sheikh, whoever those people are that are, they are not following their roles to be servants for you, they're all by themselves, you can go astray. And all we are doing is we're focusing on these pillars. We don't understand that these pillars are supposed to hold up the house or the building, the greater good. Because Allah, I'm not a scholar, but I'm sure Allah had these pillars to build something better, something higher, something to the next level. So we should treat the pillar, zakat, all these things, as a gift of divine understanding to us, and use it to build a structure or something better, to be the true Muslim, like our great prophet, peace be upon him, was. So we are just fighting over things like, how to pray and how to do the right zakat and all these things, and we're just losing the whole focus. So we need to use those pillars as a gift from Allah to build on something else.
As a matter of fact, brother, the majority of the great scholars, and I know you need to go, I've held you a little long, say that we should not do khutbahs about fiqh. We should not argue about issues of fiqh. So for example, whether I hold my hands here or hold my hands here, this is not something we should argue about. But we should practice for the sake of Allah. We are all trying to get close to Allah. And I think what you said is really beautiful. Every single one of these things were given to us so we can elevate ourselves above this world and above the things of this world and above the dirt of this world. The dunya is the lowest thing. So yes, you're absolutely right. Everything is built upon that. And I think that that's why we have to come back. We will pick the subject up a little bit next week and we'll keep going, inshallah.
What slide are we on?
We're on 694. Please forgive me if I said anything to offend anyone today. That was not my intention. If I said anything right, all the glory is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for inspiring me. Anything that I said wrong is my ego and my arrogance. And I ask you to pray that Allah will forgive me and continue to teach me so that I can teach you everything I know, because Allah knows I need the blessings. I love you all for the sake of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.